Greetings, Guzzlers. We're going to make a Christmas treat. Well, it is actually now something that you can get all through the year in Spain and certain other countries. But initially, these were a treat that was sort of had at Christmas time. Generally, they were available from September through to January, but the aim was for a special treat for Christmas. But like I say, they're now available all throughout the year. These are Spanish shortbread cookies, polvorones, or something like that. So we're going to make some polvorones. Just said that wrong again, didn't I? Now, at the moment, I've got my oven on, my Dundee oven, I still haven't got a new one yet. And we want to get it up to 180 because we're going to toast some flour. I'm going to make about 40 of these. And so you might want to halve all the quantities. What I've got here is 426 grams of plain flour. And I've spread it in a baking tray because what we're going to do is we're going to put it in the oven at 180 and we're going to toast it. Now, toasting your flours, plain flour and almond flour, which we'll come to in a minute, is essential for the aroma, the taste, the texture. Okay, so I'm going to put that in and it should be about 15 minutes. But we keep an eye on it and we might want to keep circulating it a bit. Okay, and then I've got another tray with almond flour. Now you can do this on a tray or you could do this in a pan. You just got to be careful you don't burn it. Almond flour, 212 grams. Okay, so I'm just going to get this toasted, and then when that's done, we'll move on to the next stage. So my plain flour's done. I had about 16 minutes, and it was starting to catch in places. Although I would say that possibly could have had longer. So I've transferred that into a bowl to let that cool down. Now the almond flour, you have to be a little bit more careful. That goes a lot quicker. This has had only about 8 minutes. And we're getting a nice brown colour to it. So I've taken that out and we now again need to let that cool, and we're then going to be transferring it into the same bowl as the plain flour, where we're going to mix it together with some salt. So we want half a teaspoon of salt and we want a teaspoon of cinnamon. And so that's all the dry ingredients as such, if you like. Although we have got some sugar here, caster sugar or granulated, is up to you, and some butter. So the butter, unsalted, softened butter, 284 grams of that. And caster sugar, I've got 340 grams of that. So I'm just going to get, whoops, a teaspoon, got that one wrong. Teaspoon of cinnamon into there, and then once that almond flour is cooled down, we'll be adding that into them flours, and we'll just whisk it all together to make sure it's all mixed up. We're going to roll this out 1/2 inch thick. Okay, so I've got my little what's names on there, and we're going to be cutting these at 2 inches, or a 2-inch round cookie cutter, and that's essentially all there is to it. Now traditionally we wouldn't normally have used butter. The traditional Spanish version used lard, but not many people are very keen on lard, are they? So we're using butter. Okay, it comes from the south of Spain originally, Andalusia, and it's a type, or one of a type of shortbreads. Now, as it's I think it's mantecado, which is the general name for this group of shortbreads. This specific one, Polvorones, or Neth, I don't know. So it's just a matter of a moment of letting that cool, and then we'll get making our dough. Just running the whisk through the flours and cinnamon and salt to get them all combined. It's still quite warm. We want to let this cool before we add it in with that bit. But giving it a little bit of a whisk through like this, getting a bit of air in there, that's going to help with the cooling process as well. Now I said to you, it's these originated in Spain, but they're now enjoyed places like Cuba, the Philippines, United States, and of course in particular Spain, Mexico. Some versions add sort of some lemon to make them lemon flavoured, but this is the traditional sort of plain one, if you like, with cinnamon. I said to you that they initially were for Christmas time, but they've sort of become adopted. Typically after a meal in like Spain and that, the family would, or the people in the meal would all say, sat around the table, have a bit of a chat, a bit of a gossip, and enjoying little treats like these, or desserts, cakes, with coffee or wine or whatever. I think is it sobremesa or something like that. Basically, 2 words meaning over the table, because these treats will be passed over the table to all the people sat around it. But we're making these for a little Christmas treat. Now the only other thing we'll be adding at the end, when they're all cooled, when you're going to serve them, traditionally just dusted them with a little bit of icing sugar. They are very crumbly, and particularly so when they're hot, when they come out of the oven. So we've got to be really careful when we bring them out of the oven that they don't fall to bits, as it were. So we're going to get our butter and our sugar combined. Okay, so in that goes in there, and using just a hand whisk, we're now just going to blend these all together to be nice and light and fluffy. Right, we're now going to start combining the flours in with the butter mixture. Started by just using the blender to get it mixed in, but we now need to work this dough. It may seem odd to begin with, that it's not really like that dough-like, but you need to just keep working it, and gradually it will come together into a dough that we can then roll out. It wants to be sticky enough that it stays together, but not sticky so that it sticks your hands. So it's just a matter of keep working through this dough, and it all combined together until we're ready to do that rolling stage. Now I kept the baking trays that I did the flour in. I'll line them with some baking paper, and we will cook these cookies for about 20 minutes or so. Once they start going a little bit golden brown around the edges, we know they're done, and we're going to bring them out, let them cool, and like I say, they are very delicate and very prone to breaking apart, so you may want to just leave them to cool on the trays, or you might want to let them cool a little bit and then carefully with a spatula, or even lifting the paper off, transfer them over. So let's get this dough ready to roll. This was exceptionally dry, and I must admit I've had to resort in the end to a couple of teaspoons of water, and that's now made it much more into a dough. It just, no matter how much I was working it, it just wasn't going to combine. Now I've got way too much here to roll out all at once, so what I'm going to do is in a minute just break off the largest lump, and we'll roll that, and like I say, we're going to roll that 1/2 inch thick. I've got my baking tray there with some baking paper on it, and we're going to cut, like I say, some 2-inch cookies. So I might want to put a little bit of flour down as well. Right, that's the first tray ready to go in the oven. 3, 6, 15 on that one. What I discovered, because it does break apart very, very easily, is better if you essentially flatten it gently with your hand, keeping it as intact as you can, and just do the final rolling stage very gently. Otherwise it keeps breaking up. So let's see what it's going to look like after it's baked. So I'm going to put that first tray in, like I say, for about 20 minutes, but keep your eye on it. So that's the last batch out of the oven, and it's now cooling. These have been cooling a little bit longer, so I'm just going to give them a light dusting of icing sugar. Like I say, sort of fairly typical. Because of my oven and the sort of fix I've got to get it working, it's not very even temperature wise, and as a result, especially my first batch, some of the ones on the edges were burning. So I have had to scrap some. They're my ones that aren't quite so good. Let's give it a go. This one's a bit overdone. Ooh. Definitely overdone. Very dry and hard, that one. Let's try one of these that aren't quite so well done. Still a little bit on the warm side. Not warm, but they are softer, crumblier. Very, very sweet. I know we put icing sugar on top, but I have already tasted one earlier without icing sugar on top, and the amount of sugar in it is what's giving it that sweetness. That icing sugar isn't making it sweet. Right. A little bit nutty, you know, flavour wise, and the almonds. Also, I think the texture of it, not something you'd want a lot of, or you might, but there you go, your polvorones. Polvorones, yeah. Spanish shortbread cookies.